Welcome to episode 10 of Onca Wildlife Centre, and in today's episode we're building for the Bairds Tapir. Before I talk about this anymore, let's move on to today's story. So, Ashlynn Finch, our head zoo director at the Wildlife Centre, has put on this offer to Sylvia Martinez, who is the head of the Flooded Forest Dome, to offer that the Bairds Tapir gets the prime spot as mammals help to draw guests in, and this can help gain guidance to help the conservation towards the caimans they have next door, and they also fit with the theme quite well. Whilst this isn't Sylvia Martinez necessarily her specialty, she has taken it on as a big project of hers to make sure she can learn as much as possible. So, doing her research, she has found that there are four types of tapirs, and one of these, the Bairds tapir, seems to be the most endangered. So, obviously, she takes the offer on and obviously tries to help this species all by herself, sadly. So, yeah, that's today's story. So, the Bairds tapir isn't actually found in the area of South America this centre is from. It's actually from northern South America, which is covering sort of Costa Rica and all the way up to Mexico, as well as a little bit of Central America. So that's just like sort of the centre region, Costa Rica and stuff like that. So it's actually the largest of the three species of tapir native to the Americas, and it's also the largest native land mammal in both Central and South America. So it's very large in terms of size, which means it's not necessarily too popular in zoos, just because the Malayan tapir always takes the top, just because it's not only more endangered than this tapir, but it's also, in my opinion, I think it looks a lot cooler and it also gets more attention. So obviously it's a bit different, but the tapir still is the same primitive species. It looks like rhinos and horses, and it's the ancestors of them. Even though it looks completely unique, in my opinion, I think it looks like a moose. But obviously, like the elephant trunk nose, sort of, it's got, and it's got hind feet that are really weird. It's got three toes and stuff like that. So it is very weird because, like, the back feet have got three, the front feet have four toes. So it's all very strange, almost like the moose. Oh no, the tapir. That's the one I'm thinking of. No, the what's it called? The tarkin. They both begin with T. Tarkin. So those two animals are actually quite similar in terms of like unique amongst their relative cousins. So it's quite funny. So these animals are extremely shy and they're very quiet, which makes the dome probably a better spot for them just because they're indoors and they feel much more contained and feel a little bit better. They're very quiet and stuff like that. So they're very difficult to come across. In fact, our two tapirs here at the centre are found in Mexico. They were found in a palm oil plantation, causing some chaos and uprooting all the trees. So they've been deposited all the way down south to help with the conservation down there, mainly because they're not as well known down in the south of South America. A bit hard to say. So it helps with them. If you do want to be named after one of these guys, be sure to leave it down in the comments. I can't come up with a name for these two, so if you do have any names, be sure to leave them down in the comments. So yeah, so these guys are found in these sort of tropical dry forests, but they're also found in super moist forest. Not necessarily flooded forest necessarily, but they do definitely like their wet environment. They love sort of that wetness, and they've got this snout which can be used as like a snorkel, so they're quite aquatic in terms of that. Naturally, the game they do have the option to have aquatic plants, so that's quite handy. So, as I said before, these animals are hard to see in the wild just because they're so cautious, but luckily they are relatively social, so they can be in groups, but they can be found solitary. They don't really care, but they're usually found in small sort of families, like the mum and dad and the child, and then eventually the child will go away, and they might split up, and it just kind of goes back and forth. But they're like us; they're both active during the day and the night. I don't know if that's a word. I couldn't find that up, so if you do know it, be sure to let me know. I'll be actually quite happy to see that. But they usually try and find their time browsing in the thickets and the forest and coming out the shelters, sort of about night time. So they don't want to, stay too long out in the night sky. They do want to go back into their little shelters. which is a bit funny. But they do browse in forest clearings, which is why when you look at this habitat, you see that it's actually quite empty and there's not much sort of foliage like tree-wise. So it's very compact, and when you look out, it looks like a clearing. And I wanted the rocks to make it look almost like a valley. I don't know if that sort of is a thing, but luckily with rocks, they are known to be good climbers and swimmers, so they can easily get over steep slopes and are actually usually found bathing in streams and rivers. And if they do feel in danger by anything, they can actually hide under the water, which they have been seen to do in the wild too. So, in the wild, when they want to look back home, obviously we get lost. I use my phone, but if these guys get lost, they actually wee on their way over to somewhere and they go back and follow their wee on the way back. And this could be through, you know, peeing, pooing, even noises with their family, sort of this squealing, almost like a pig, but I think they call it whistles, funny enough. So it's weird. So they are herbivores, more sort of being a little bit more in depth. They could be called a folivore, which is, hold on, let me just double check if I am right. Folivore, so looks like just an animal that eats. Hold on, let's have a look. Eating leaves. That was it. Folivore. Leaves. And I've also got a frugivore, which is just fruit, and obviously the herbivore, which is just everything combined, which is quite funny. So they obviously eat seeds as well and twigs, whatever they can get their hands on. They're quite funny. So they prioritize their reproduction mating periods in the rainy seasons, and it only takes about 400 days, so just over a year, I would say. And they usually only have one calf, and they spend around 1 to 2 years sort of maturing up. The babies are very cute. They've got these stripes and dots, and they're quite popular, their babies, with the public. Sadly, not as much as the pygmy hippos, but hey ho. Now the facts are out of the way, one of my main inspirations for this habitat, because I haven't actually, well, I have seen tapirs before, but not this specific tapir, was actually using a lot of water. When I went to, I think it was Chester Zoo, they have the Malayan tapir over there, and actually it was against the glass, and it was actually quite cool. I think he's quite commonly laid next to the glass. I've heard reports of, so he's quite cool. I think they had a little pool for it, and that gave me huge inspiration. So I wanted to incorporate this little pond, and you can look into it like they had over there, just so you can kind of get an idea of what they look like when they're splashing about, because they do that. And I think it's quite cute, especially if they have babies. It'd be really cute to see a little baby going around with a little rubber duck in the pool and stuff like that. But I also added a waterfall and a couple of rocks so they can climb, make sure their fitness is up, because this is a relatively small habitat. Um, I would say in a more realistic setting, they would have a backstage area, unlike the crocodiles. Probably less likely to. So I should have done a backstage rather than having this glass dome. But because they are in a dome, they don't need that shelter covering from the rain like some of the other animals I have here. Be sure to check out my other videos if you do want to see how I've done any other shelters, because I do think my little leaf pagoda thing was really cool. So I'm not hyping myself up or anything, but I really do like that, and I think that's great if you want to use it or anything. So just making sure that I have a lot of water in the habitat, because flowing water is a big problem with fish. They like bubbles and oxygen, stuff like that. And hopefully, if they ever make a Planet Zoo 2, we have fish. I think that'd be quite a good selling point. Well, birds would be the best, but swimming, making sure you've got both the swimming and the flying would be perfect in here. I would have flying birds, and maybe even some fish as well in the water. Even with the crocodiles, that's quite common. I know at Chester Zoo they had the gharials and they had tons of like different fish in there. I don't know what they were. I can't remember what they were. I don't know if they were cichlids, but they're African, so I doubt it. But you would have cichlids usually in these sort of tropical waters. Like if you're doing like American alligators, they usually have them in there. So yeah. Rightio, so this is the end of today's video, so I hope you guys did enjoy this. If you want to see more from me, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. But if you do have any name ideas for these guys, be sure to leave it down in the comments, as I am always looking out and I will always reply to your comments. So yeah, I will see you on the next episode. See you soon. Bye.